everyone, to Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross, where I am your host and resource for education, connections, collaborations to support you on your wellness journey. And I want to start by thanking our sponsors today, Noemi Beres, Vibe, BAM Metrics, and White Sands Premier Travel, for these sponsored appearances that makes Mindful Mondays possible. Now, as the co-owner of Podcast Connections, Noemi knows the art of making meaningful connections that elevate businesses through storytelling. With over 16 years in online marketing and a rich background in linguistics, she is not just a content creator, but a master of weaving narratives that resonate. But that's not all, because a self-taught artist, she is living in stunning landscapes of Cyprus, and Noemi finds inspiration in her surroundings and the power of memories. And Noemi, I am so glad to have you with us here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's an honor to be here. I'm so glad to be
Yes,
here.
I love all the things you do. It's just so amazing. Can you share with us your personal journey of using art as a tool to cope with the grief and stress, particularly after the loss of your father and grandmother in 2019?
Yes, it was a very tough year for me and my family, 2019, because I lost my dad to cancer at age 63, and then a few months later, my grandma passed away because of an accident. So it was a lot going on, and I also, because of COVID, lost my business basically. So it was a lot of trauma, a lot of stress went in my family. So what I did, I went back to my artist self, because pre-COVID time, I had exhibitions, group exhibitions with fellow artists. I went to different artist meetings all over Europe, and it was such an exciting time. But because of the pandemic, everything stopped. So art making kind of stopped for me too, because there were so many things going on in my family and in my personal and business life. So 2020, that was, I think it was about April in 2020, May. And I decided I need to do something in order to feel better. I need to heal myself. I didn't know how to do it at first, but I knew that I love making art, and art is a meditative practice for me. So what I did every evening, I went back to my collages, to my hands-on collages, and I was working on them while listening to audiobooks or music or a podcast. And that's what I was doing day by day, evening by evening. And I realized that it can help, art can help me to heal. And if I can heal, other people can heal too with the help of art. And when I realized that, I completed a few courses on positive psychology, art therapy, color therapy, and that helped me. And now I'm getting on shows and podcasts and help people how to feel better, get better when they are not feeling so well and when they are in a dark place.
Yeah. And I love that you were able to go back to something that you love doing, because that's something I've always said, is that we get so busy or caught up in one rat race or another that we stop doing the things we love. And when you do things you love, I believe, you can tell me if you agree or not, that it really helps kind of keep you grounded.
Absolutely. It's such the best way to keep us grounding, to go back to the roots, to the things that we like, and they kind of take us into a flow, into all these positive vibes we getting through these things like making art or dancing or making music or cooking or knitting, anything that like lights you up or brings you joy.
Yeah, I always told people happy dancing and singing or whatever, or dancing and music is always one of my happy places. But I always loved cross stitch too, so that was something. I was never good at the artist part, or I haven't. I shouldn't say I'd never. I haven't tried that, but I've met a few people now that can really express themselves with the artwork. So I'm, definitely a release if that is someone that is inclined to do that. But in what ways did your experiences during that difficult times shape your artistic style and themes in your work?
I went back to my roots. I come from Hungary, from a small town. I was born and raised in Central Europe. And for me, going back to my roots during that time was really important. It somehow kept me grounded and I was in peace. And I tried to incorporate my family's history and my life into these collages. So basically, I sew my family history and memories together. And I really enjoyed the journey because I just discovered so many interesting things about my family. Because I used photos and postcards, for example, from my childhood. I asked my mom, who are these people on these old vintage photos? And my mom explained to them. Then I incorporated these photos into my collages. So it was a very unique experience to discover my roots, my heritage. I really enjoy that part. I always go for the vintage vibes, and anything that kind of Hungarian related, because I've been living away from my home country in the past 20 years. So somehow I still need to keep connected to my roots, to my origin.
Right.
This is the way I do it right now.
Yeah, and I was looking at some of those because it is on your art is on your website, Noemi Beres.com. A lot of the pictures I've noticed have either eyes or a face that's kind of hidden in the background. Is there a reason for that? I was just
Uh,
curious
it,
as to what
that's
motivates
a great question. And yeah, most of the artworks you can see on my website on noemiberes.com, they are my digital collages because I work in work with different mediums. They can be cut and paste collages, paper, digital, and a hand sewn one, which you can see behind me on the wall. But the ones that you're talking about, it's on my website, and that's really interesting because eyes are somehow attract me when it comes to art, because it's the most expressive part of our body. And when I get to know someone, I really love to look into their eyes because you really discover hidden depth in people's eyes. So for me, and I just realized that, like, people, other, my friends told me, it's like, why do you use so many eyes in your artwork? It just came to me. I just needed to put those eyes in those collages.
well, because they say eyes are the window to the soul,
Very true.
and I'm not an I'm not as up on art as maybe some other people, but I do know like Thomas Kincaid always had like there's like a small mouse or whatever in like everything. And people like go nuts trying to find it. But I was
Yeah.
noticing some of yours, and I was just wondering if that was kind of a signature, a reason, or had a deeper meaning. Because when I saw all that, that's why I was curious.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to use these little elements and things, and to make it just a bit more fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, how has your experience with the hand sewn collages on canvas and paper influenced your belief in art's therapeutic benefits?
For me, making art is a form of like healing process. It's a form of meditation, because it's so interesting that when you start to, for example, sew something, or you knit, or you crochet, or anything you do by hand, it's so soothing for your mind and for your body, for your soul, that whatever you can do, like, you can do it for hours and you haven't even noticed that time passed. You can, I think, and not just I think, but other people think too, that like art therapy, like, really brings us closer to us, to know us better, and to kind of calm us down. And you can even meditate while you do that, because you are in a meditative state when you do art. You may not even realize it, but you're actually doing it. Your pulse is down, your heartbeat is down, at the serotonin level in your brain. It's amazing how it changes your body when you do art. And there's another beneficial thing that you can do, like, for example, art journals, and keep your journaling activities in a book, and just add some extra art to that. So for me, it was exactly the same thing. It was meditative, it was like a monotone process, and I just enjoyed fully and immersed in it fully. And I stopped watching the news, for example, during the pandemic, and I was just concentrating on my art, about music and audiobooks. And that was kind of a visual experience for me, that it kept me kind of sane and relaxed during those very hectic and wide times.
Yeah, and from what I understand, some people, that aren't able to communicate well or express how they
Yes.
feel, they can do it through art or through drawing and communicate that way as well.
So true, yes. Because we can have all those dark thoughts and dark moments, But when you put everything into art and not just swiping under the carpet, but you express something very dark thing into your art, it really helps you to heal. And I remember that, like, my dad was in transition in 2019, and I was with him, the family was with him, and I started to make collages, digital collages. And there was a really dark, only dark colors. And so my friends asked me, "What's going on? This is really looks horrible." And that was the state of my soul and how I felt during that time. But it really helped me to cope with the loss and the transition of my dad. And yeah, you can see the difference between those collages I made that time and today's collages.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that kind of brought me to my next question. I was going to say, so what specific emotions or experiences do you aim to express through your work, and how do you channel these feelings into your creative process?
Yeah, anything. When you feel joy, you have those brighter colors, and you can totally see when I make something that was made out of joy or made out of sorrow. Especially with these dark collages, and I only use black and white, for example, during that time, during my dad transition, I couldn't use colors. But when a couple of years passed, I started to use colors again. And that it's just really amazing to see the process, how our body and mind changing and how we cope with grief during that time.
I was going to say, yeah, sounds kind of like the grief process, and
Yes.
kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, and things get brighter.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So true. Yeah.
So you've mentioned the healing part of art. Can you elaborate on a moment when you truly felt that moment of transformation through your creativity?
It's really interesting. It's a great question. For me, I think the first collage that was a big transformation, because I never made any collages before. And that was 12 years ago, almost 13 years ago, because when I was expecting my son, and I just sat down. I had this little table, and I was at my parents', and I just started to make my first mixed media collage. I only used um, magazine clippings, buttons, a couple of textiles. And it was really interesting because I've never imagined that I'm going to make collages. But somehow, like, being expecting with my son, and the world is changing around me, and I was changing as a woman. And I just started to use another form of art to express my feelings. And that was, I think, that a big moment in my life when I actually decided or made up my mind that I'm going to make collages.
Wow. Yeah. So do you do painting at all, or are they all collages out of just different things?
Very interesting, because when as a teenager, I was always a creative type. And when I
Hmm.
was a teenager, I loved painting. And even at a younger age, I loved working and painting and drawing as well. But somehow that changed for me. I'm not a huge fan. I love going to art galleries. I love watching paintings and museums, galleries. I'm not so into painting anymore, but I just started art journaling a few months ago. And now I bought paint again, and I bought other different things. So probably I'm going to do that, but as part of my art journaling journey, not like a painter. I guess I would need more training for that. Collage it's more like a free flow state of art form, because it's just so much easier to make collages than anything else, than to be an amazing painter or draw things, in my opinion.
Yeah. So where do you find that then, your inspiration? Just through magazines, things you see online? How do you come up with where do you clip
Yeah.
your collages from?
The hands-on collages are memories, so it's always around a picture. They always have some centerpiece. I have for example, you can see one of my collages behind me. That's actually a postcard that my grandparents bought me when we went to Venice. I was about 6, 7 years old, and they took me to Venice, to Italy, and I was in love. I just fell in love with the city while I was there. So I found this postcard. So my collage built around that postcard. So that's how I found the inspiration for my hands-on collages. For the digital ones and the paper ones, yeah, magazines, old books. I love vintage books, and it's so sad. But sometimes, I take them apart. So I cut them up. Even I have one that is like a 19th century like vintage book, and it doesn't worth it a lot, but I cut it up. So which is it
You
sounds
made it worth
horrible.
more. You made it worth more to you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So if I find something interesting, and I collect magazines, I collect buttons, textiles, lace, anything. I'm not a hoarder, but I keep them, organized, yarn, anything. But I can use so many things that I really have to have a stock on things, because sometimes I just feel like, okay, I have to do this and this and have to pair them up and put it in a collage. Sometimes just things just come to me out of nowhere. So I need to have those materials around me.
Nice. So when things come, I mean, so this is a form of relaxation,
Yeah.
obviously. But everybody, we always say how we're in such a fast paced world. We always get so busy. For one, how do you find the time to do that? And when you have these inspirations, do you stop, jot it down, or start working on it? Or how do you keep that fresh in your mind if you were already busy with something else?
It's not easy to find the time for anything nowadays. I run a podcast booking agency. It's a busy business. I also co-host a podcast. I'm also a mother, so it's a lot going on in my life all the time. But I love keep myself busy. But I always find a time for art, especially during weekends. And when I don't have time to do it straight away, I have this little notebook. So I put my ideas down. I jot my ideas down, as you said, because I am going to forget them. So I have a couple of collage ideas already, like, for the next year or so. Because when I see something I like and something inspires me, I just put it down, jot it down, and I will make it. But it takes time, especially when you sew something. It's very time consuming.
Yeah. So, like you said, you have a very busy life,
Yeah.
but I would say, would you say daily then, one way or another, you find time and you make time to do the art, or how often are you able to do that?
I would love to do it daily and not right now. But I do something artistic every day. For example, I drum every day. That's my part of my morning ritual, that I drum. I have different drums. I have a djembe drum. I have a frame drum, a tongue drum, a handpan. So every morning I dedicate at least 10 minutes to do something with music, with rhythm. It's really relaxing. Again, it's a form of stress release. And I'm not, you don't have to be a professional musician to do that. You just buy a djembe drum and drum away. Hopefully the neighbors don't mind it, but you just
Or,
start,
or have a soundproof room?
or have a soundproof room. That's the other option. So yeah, I do that, for example, every day, or journal. I try to journal every day, meditate every day. So again, it's a form of self-care. It's a form of self-love, to take time off and dedicate that time just to yourself. And I'm not talking about like 2 hours meditation. I usually do like 10 minutes. Or if I'm doing some artsy stuff, it doesn't have to be long, but always just, I believe in small steps. So if you do just like, even a few minutes every day of something, it will still help us to heal and feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people it's like it doesn't have to be big, and you start small and you can
Yeah.
expand from there. Because if you find that it's helping you balance and get some of that peace and the self-care and mindfulness, then you might, want to increase it a little bit more. And maybe that's getting up a little bit earlier so you can fit in what you want to do before you do the others, or take a look at your schedule,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Or exactly. Or block out time for yourself, because we can all do that.
Yeah. So, can you share any techniques or practices that you use to cultivate mindfulness while you're creating art?
It's, for me, you have to have, this is kind of a sacred place for ourselves. And I truly believe that making art is a powerful tool of self-love. And you don't, it's about expression without judgment. You don't have to think about what you are doing. It doesn't have to be perfect, because you're just connecting to yourself on a deeper level. And you don't have to show it to anyone, and you don't have to be an artist. You can pick any form of art to do. It's your sacred place. You can always go back to that. You can always relax. And whatever happens in the world, there's a safe space where you can do that. And it also helps to seeing your worth, and to have more self-confidence, to have more self-appreciation when you when you finish something, because it's not about how pretty it's going to be, it's not about how amazing your artwork will be, it's about the journey, it's about getting there and just enjoying every moment of that. So for me, that's the mindfulness part of art.
Yeah, and like you said, when you finish it, it's kind of like a sense of accomplishment. You got,
Yes.
something that you did, that you completed, that you can appreciate. So
Absolutely. I'm sad when I finish one work because, oh, I would love to add more things to it, but then less is more. So I need to stop. And then I'm happy to see, and again, a white canvas in front of me, and there's just, oh, I can put my ideas on that too. I just need more wall space to put my art.
yeah, either
Or
that or have rotating out
yeah, I
pictures.
need to do that probably.
Well, I know we have some advice for people as how they can get started and tap into their own creativity and art. But we're going to take a quick break from a word from our sponsors, and we will be right back.
Relief for PTSD, anxiety, pain, insomnia, and many other ailments. Introducing Vibe, the world's only pocket PEMF device. You place in your pocket while cooking, cleaning, relaxing, watching TV, sitting at your computer, reading, or walking. Self-contained standalone device. No drugs. No other phone or Bluetooth connections required. No monthly subscription fees. No apps to download. No Bozone. The future of medicine is in the frequencies. Come join the revolution.
Hi, I'm Bobby Aldridge with BAM Metrics. There are so many programs out there that measure your swing speed, sets, reps, your BMI, your body fat, but the one thing they're not measuring that's so essential is mobility. Mobility is the key. If you're measuring your mobility, your performance will get better and you will reduce your pain. I created BAM Metrics to make it easy for people to repeat the exercises so they could do it properly at home on their own. It's simple, it's easy to do, and from a senior to a pro athlete.
So, Noemi, how can people, regardless of their artistic background, incorporate creative practices into their lives for mental well-being?
You just need to start something. That's my advice, because there's so many people struggles with that. I'm not an artist. There's always an excuse. I can't do things. I was never good at art when I was growing up. It's usually that's the normal, reply that you get from people. I think we were all born artists, even when we were kids. It's just school, our parents, and the society that kind of, bring us down when it comes to us being an artist, because we all have a hidden artist part. We just have to, peel the layers away and just use something. So whatever you do, it can be cooking, it can be knitting, it can be crocheting, it can be doodling, or even finger painting. So even, my son at age 4 or 3, he did a couple of collages. If he could do that, like everybody can do that. So it's important to find something that really brings you joy. For example, I heard about, this is a great practice to have a gratitude tree. So you bring a branch into and put it in a vase, and then you just put some things that you're grateful for in life, and you just hang it on the tree, or you starting a gratitude jar. These are also part of an art therapy healing process. So you can basically start anything you want, as long as it brings you joy and brings you peace. Or coloring books, there are so popular, or these mandala coloring books nowadays. You just need, a couple of colored pencils and a mandala coloring book, and you can start working on them. So there are hundreds and hundreds different options. We just need to get started, and small steps, step by step. You just start doing 5 minutes, the next day 10 minutes, and you don't even realize it, but you will be hooked, and then you start spending more and more time on that.
So pretty much anything they want to do, just start,
Yeah.
because a lot of people get all the bad records playing in their head, worried about what everybody else thinks, or like you said, we're not, they're not good enough. So just basically just telling them, just got to tune that out and just start.
Yes. Yeah. Just keep doing something that you like. Yeah. Pick something.
Nice. So how does art foster social connections, whether through group exhibitions, collaborations, or shared experiences?
We don't need to be alone to do art. I specifically love being alone and making art. That's my, that's my thing, my jam, when I want to just close off the world and enjoy myself. But you don't need to do art alone. There are so many art communities that you can join online or in person. And the social activity really brings people together. It's such an important aspect, especially right now in the world, especially in the post-pandemic world. But we are still struggling to have connection with other people. We always need a medium to bring people together. So art is one of them, because participating in group activities can really help us to feel more connected and reduce the feelings of isolation. I think that's just really, really important nowadays, more than ever. And just being part of a group, it just brings so much joy to people, even if it's online, because we can do that now with Zoom. But you can always find local groups as well, art communities, that you can join.
Yeah. So, excuse me. So the can you speak to any transformative stories that you've witnessed from individuals who engaged in your with your art or participated in your workshops? Because you hold workshops, right? You've done workshops.
I mainly talk on podcasts about art, and that's my medium to share my knowledge and help people. But I can tell you that there's a personal story of mine
Uh-huh.
that when it was COVID, my mom was visiting us here in Cyprus, and she lives in Hungary, but she's stuck here because everything stopped, and the incoming outgoing air flights are just stopped. And basically she stuck with us for 3 months. And I knew that she really misses her home, her usual surroundings, and her garden. So I knew that this anxiety and stress are just building up inside her. So I had a few coloring books for her and a few color pencils. So I told her, Mom, you need to start something. And every afternoon she sat down and started to work on these coloring books. They were beautiful mandala coloring books. And I think she worked through like two of them while she was here, and they were beautiful. And she really, really enjoyed it. And I could see the tension, the anxiety, the stress. I'm not saying it, disappeared, but it definitely decreased while she was working on these project of hers, and she kept them. She took them away with her because she was so proud that she accomplished those and she made those. And that was one of the example that no matter what kind of trouble you're going through, stress or anxiety, anything can help you. Even just a coloring book can help you to change, and it's just so important.
Nice. So have you ever had any of the people that watched on your podcast or anything about the art share with them what you helped inspire for them, or?
I got feedback, especially on LinkedIn, when I talked about how you can cope with grief and use art therapy. And I got very good feedback about that. And especially when I get on podcasts from the hosts, and they keep telling me that, like, oh, yeah, I'm not an artist, but now you're telling me that I can just doodle, or I can just knit, or if I cook or drum, I will totally do that. And thank you for inspiring me. And I truly believe that getting on podcast and share this message, share this story, if I just help only one person with that, that's already a win situation for me. And that's why I'm doing it. That's why I keep doing it.
Yeah, you and I are very similar. I always say if I can reach just one person or support and help them, then
Yeah.
then I have done my job. But yeah. So so the message you're telling everybody with art, what do you hope for people to take away from that in their interaction with your artwork and the creative process?
It's for me, and I just want to feel better and want to feel more relaxed and enjoy life more fully, because there are so many things that can trouble us in the world right now, or in the future, in the past. But if we don't always concentrate on the bad things, but try to keep our mind away these bad things happening around us, and try to find a place where we are safe, where we can express our feelings, it's just so important, and it makes a huge change in our lives and the way we look at things, and even when it were hard times or good times, bad times.
So a lot of your art that you've talked about, that you said you've done as basically the trauma just happened. Have you ever had things that maybe popped up from your childhood that inspired art that you did today to help release that?
Yeah, I mean, like one of them is that was the postcard that I made and incorporated in my that like great travel memories, for example, from my childhood. Or I remember I made a collage using one of my late dad's photograph. She was, I think, in Germany, and I found the photo, and I just really spoke to me. And I was like, oh, I would love to incorporate that, or anything like family members from my family. And it's just so fun to use all these different memories and incorporate them in my art.
So do you ever create them for other people?
Yes, sometimes it's still a passion project for me. So I'm not doing art for the sake of money,
Right.
but for it's definitely like 100% a passion project. But before the pandemic, I had a few group exhibitions where I had my artworks on sale as well, and people purchased them, and it was so much fun to see that, like, oh my gosh, they will actually buy. So that someone just wants to buy my art. So it was great. And I also um, gave away a few of my artworks to my son's school, and also other places to support like cancer patients and hospices. So just for free, because I truly believe in this, go giver mentality. Thanks to Bob Berg and the community I belong to, that if we give to people, we just get everything back tenfold. That's, I think, just so important. So sometimes I just love to give it away to friends, family members, to people I like, and just enrich their life through my art.
Yeah. Have you ever had someone that you were able to work with because maybe they wanted to do it, but they were struggling with their ideas and putting it together? Have you ever helped guide them on that, or?
Not yet, but I was thinking about to start something, maybe a workshop, and especially for with collages, because it's so easy to make collages. And if I can help people to put this together and give them some ideas, that would be pretty awesome. So that's probably for the future. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, I used to belong to Creative Memories, where you cut out pictures, you do the designs, you
Mm,
put together these photo albums, but they were normally done in like big groups, with like a whole
yeah.
bunch of people. So there's a whole lot of socializing going on while you're clipping and stuff as well. But so how much did your art and your collage play into being a content creator? Did it cross over at all, or does it add to it?
It's funny, yeah, because I always loved creating content for social media. I really love Instagram. I've been on the site, I think, I don't know, like 12 years or so, and I love sharing other people's content, other artists' content. So for me, sharing art and being there is really important, and content creation too. So if I can incorporate my art into content creation, that's a very win-win situation. And I love making reels or Instagram stories about my artworks, and I also share them, for example, on LinkedIn. Even if it's a professional network, people will get to know me better through my art. And so I'm not just another podcast booking agent, but that podcast booking agent who loves cats and always posts about her cats on LinkedIn, plus about art too, because we're not defined just one person. There are so many different layers to us, and we can definitely show that to the world through content creation.
Yeah. And as you said, you are the co-owner of Podcast Connections. And that's how a lot of people are communicating nowadays, between podcasts and TV shows. So do you want to share with everybody a little bit more about what you do and how that came about?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes. So I run a podcast booking agency, which helps entrepreneurs, business owners, coaches to get on to connect with quality podcast shows or even radio shows or live TV shows. And what we do is we help them, we provide them with a done for you service when we do everything for them when it comes to podcast guesting. So we save them time, money, and energy. They only have to focus and concentrate on sharing their stories and sharing their knowledge on different shows, on different podcasts all around the world, mainly in the US and Canada.
Yeah, although you are in Cyprus.
Although I'm in Cyprus, I'm sitting here in Europe. Yes.
Yeah, because I was like, we connected through one of those platforms, and I know
Yes.
I know we had swapped. But not only that, though, you do also host the Sacred Divine podcast.
Correct. Yes, I do a lot of things. Yeah.
They're all kind of connected, though. They're all kind of
Yes.
connected. It makes
Yeah.
sense. So, would you like to tell everybody a little bit more about the Sacred Divine and what they can expect there?
Absolutely. And we love interviewing people about mindfulness, about connecting to themselves, especially women, and how we can all connect and how we can have a better life thanks to meditation and mindfulness, how we can have a more enriched life through changing our beliefs and just providing a better place for ourselves and connect to ourselves on a deeper level. And that's why we created the Sacred Divine podcast, and that's what I'm co-hosting and having these incredible conversations with amazing people like you, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you. And it was an honor to be on that show with you and Dr. Keith McNally. So I appreciate
It was
that.
an honor, interview you as well. So.
It's always fun. I love doing this because I love being able to connect with people all over the place. But and so you're like me. You have multiple things going on. I don't think some of the people know half of what I have going on. And that's okay. But you are the guest. So tell us, how do you balance all of this and keep your self-care and mindfulness in mind and keep it balanced?
That's a very good question.
Or I shouldn't say balance, maybe harmony. Keep some kind of harmony. I don't know if it can be
Yeah,
truly balanced,
harmony.
but
Yeah, I can't balance it. It's all about harmony. Yeah, I truly believe that, like, if we do like small steps every day, and if we even do just 5 minutes of everything, we still keep doing them. So for me, is I try to squeeze everything in, but I don't want to rush it. So I have kind of a schedule in the morning, schedule in the evening for myself to wind down and really like separate my business, my personal life, although we can't really do that. So I would say like balance it out or harmonize it. It's just all about, for example, not scrolling my phone, but I'm reading a book. So it's all about choices we make. And when the time comes, okay, I'm putting away my work because I've been working remotely since 2007. It's been a very, very long time. And it's really hard to find that harmony in life. But when you have kids, when you have a family, you have to somehow harmonize everything together. And it's not going to be perfect, but I truly believe just dedicate just a tiny fraction of time for everything, and I think it works.
yeah. And it's also more challenging too when you're working globally because of all the different changes.
Correct.
Yeah. I have met some people that have told me that they were up like 2 a.m. to do a podcast and a TV show. And I'm like, oh, no. I believe in self-care and mindfulness. No, we need to find a time when
Yeah.
it's good for both of us to do that. So yeah, that's why I always try to make this as easy as possible. As easy as possible. Do you ever have those times where you work late, or do you kind of try to keep somewhat normal hours?
I'm trying my best. Let's put it that way. I get up early because I have to get ready my son to school and everything. So I'm up before 6 o'clock in the morning, and I usually go to bed at 11. And I have very long days. I usually start my day like 5 p.m. So I'm having my conversations with my US clients, or I'm networking from 5 p.m. until 8 my time, my local time. And I try to squeeze everything in to those time frames because I know I won't get up at 2 a.m. to do an interview. So that's it. Yeah, I agree with you, Laura. That's our self-care, self-love time. We need sleep, and sleep is so, so, so important to preserve our health. So no, I don't do those hours either.
Yeah. Do you ever have days where you just say, you know what, I need a day for myself and just shut it all off?
It's really hard for me. I'm just, let's put it that way. I'm a recovering uh, maximalist, or I don't know.
Workaholic?
Workaholic too. That too. So I really have to concentrate on that, and not to feel guilty about it. But I would say I can certainly do a half day. I can certainly do a half day off during work week, but I don't work during weekends. So weekends are mine, except when when I'm co-hosting podcast interview. But that's a different story. But I try to keep concentrate on my weekends and focus on my weekends to keep it to myself and to my family and relax. I think they're so important, and I think that's the big difference between the U.S. and Europe, because we really stick to our weekends. We really want to, save them for ourselves and for self care.
Yeah, I'm like you. I mostly do that as well. But since my fiance, is normally doing something or
Yeah.
working half the day Saturday, I'll do half the day Saturday too. But yeah, I didn't do this to be working while my family or my other half is there and not be able to enjoy family time.
Yes, it's so important to have time for that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some tips or techniques that you want to share with everybody, whether it's about mindfulness, art? Because a lot of people struggle to find that harmony. As I say, I always said balance, but it really, I don't know if balance is the right word. I think it's just harmony. What
Yeah.
can just bring you peace and even keel, so you don't feel like you're doing the whole roller coaster.
Yeah, first of all, pick something that excites you, that brings you joy. It doesn't have to be a big project. I'm talking about art right now because that's that closest to my heart. And just try doing it at least for like 5-10 minutes, if you can, at least 5 times a week. I'm not saying you have to stick to it like for 28 days or for 30 days, but try to do it like every week, and try to be consistent and persistent whatever you do. Just try to stick to it, because I read it somewhere that, like, if you do something for at least 60 days, I'm not quite sure, but it was something about the 60 days, that if you try doing something persistently, consistently, you will stick to it. Your body will really connect with that thing, whatever you do. It can be sport, it can be, food, it can be art, anything at all. I think everything is about like harmony in life and about being consistent and persistent, whatever you do. And my motto is just keep going. So whatever you start, just keep going, doing it. On your bad days, on your good days, you can do anything. You can pick anything. And I think they're just so brilliant when you decide and when you stick to it. It was the same for me when I decided that, okay, I want to get healthier. I love walking, so I became a walker. I'm not running. I was never into gyms. I'm not that type that, like, exercising all the time. But about 2 years ago, I made up my mind. I need to make changes. So every morning I do some exercise outside, and every afternoon I go for a walk. Maybe it's 20 minutes, maybe it's 45 minutes, depending on my schedule. But I do it every single day. So it's about being consistent with anything in life, and it brings you results. Like my walking brought me joy. It's a form of meditation for me again, and also it brings you better health. It's like the same with art. So whatever you pick, just keep doing it.
I would imagine it brings inspiration to you too for future
Yeah.
artwork.
Yeah, because I love taking photos. So I'm just wandering around. Even if I'm a walker, I stop and then I take those photos. It's a beautiful place where we live. The sea is like a 10-minute drive. The Mediterranean Sea, it's about a 10-minute drive from here. So the lights, the view, the nature is beautiful. So I always take my time. I slow down. And when you're out in nature, you can even do like walking meditation. And that's also a great way to just switch off a little bit. And it doesn't have to be long. You can do it like for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It definitely brings results after a while when you keep doing it.
Yeah. I had to do that the other day. I was like, okay, I need to walk away at this point because I was frustrated with some things I do. It's like, okay, need to walk away because I learned that lesson. When you keep trying and doing, saying, no, I just need to finish this, it's like slamming your head against a wall and you really don't get very far. So yeah, I totally agree. I love myself walking around and getting that time to reset. So, but what do you see in the future? Where are you seeing your art going in the future? Any plans?
Yes, I have a plan, as I always do. With some ideas. I love to make a coffee table book, basically, based on my artworks, and I would love to include the stories of each and every of my collages. I'm talking about the hands-on collages I made. So I would love to include those short stories and like a professionally made photo of every and each of collages that I made. And it would make a nice kind of album or coffee table book for other people where I could basically include my life as well and my memories from Hungary and from anywhere else in the world, because sometimes I incorporate, my travels into my collages. Like I love Mallorca in the Balearic Islands in Spain, and for example, one of the collages behind me is two postcards from that place, because that brought me joy and brought me great memories. So I had to incorporate those into my artwork. So yeah, I would love to do that, and of course, like for every other artist, is having a solo exhibition. That would be pretty amazing. So one day I will make that happen.
I look forward to seeing that. So when you talk about the coffee table art book, so basically a whole bunch of the pictures, all of a collage on there, kind of shellacked or underneath a clear coating on the
Yeah, or
table,
like
or
and like every page, like a single collage, and there's a story next to that. So I can totally imagine that and see that. And one of the podcast hosts I was a guest on, and there was a podcast, and she gave me the idea. It's like, why didn't you make a coffee table book based on your collages? It's like, yes, I would love to do that. So that's now on my to do list of
well,
ever.
the reason I asked is because we have like a Lambert's Cafe, which is only three of them, but it has the history of how it got started because it's family recipes, it's family this, and it's
Yeah.
got the old like newspaper clippings and pictures of the family,
Mm.
but it's all shellacked underneath the table, so you can read it and sit and enjoy it and read about it while you're eating on the table, and you're not going to
Yeah.
mess it up because it's covered. So that's
Yeah,
why.
yeah, that's a pretty good idea as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to figure out when you were talking coffee book table, just a book that goes on a coffee table or the table itself
No, I was
being
talking
the.
about the book. Yeah.
Okay. 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 So any other plans? Art can or what do you got going for where do you see with the Sacred Divine, your podcast connections?
Yeah, there's always a lot of things happening. I mean, for the podcast connections, we have a new service. We offer people content repurposing. So if they work with us, or even if they don't work with us as clients, we can still help them to repurpose their content, because content is king. And sharing content of your interviews, whether it's a podcast or a TV show, it's just so important. So we help them to do that. And then about the sacred divine, we also hopefully will do a coaching program based on our beliefs and based on our podcast. So that's also one of the future plans. So there are a lot of plans out there, indeed, always, all the time.
Always have a lot of plans. So
Yes.
so people that are maybe looking or thinking about starting their own podcast, would that be a good person for them to get a hold of you to find out?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely have a chat about it. I'm more about the podcast guesting part and how to help, I would love helping people to be better guests and how to express themselves, how to shape their stories, and how to be more open and vulnerable on shows. But because now I'm on the other side of the mic too, so I have a few ideas about that too. Plus, I had a lot of interviews with podcast hosts and a lot of experience with them, so that gave me a good kind of learning curve and journey how to be better podcast host too.
Yeah. I was gonna say and if you're a heady person, you can get way too much in your head. So I ditched a lot. I ditched a lot of things. I told people I am perfectly imperfect. They're either going to resonate with
Yeah.
me or not. And that's okay.
I love that.
So Naomi, we got a few minutes left. What do you want to leave everybody with today?
I would love to inspire people to do something that brings them joy, and just to feel relaxed in this hectic world where there's so much distraction when it comes to social media, when it comes to television news. and let's find a place and time to wind off and to become and live a little bit slower life at a slower pace, and try to focus on things that they really matter to us, which can be art, which can be our personal life, our family, our health, and just keep focusing on those things, because those are the things that are really important. And I truly believe I've been reading now The Art of Living by Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist monk, and it's just amazing how much we can learn from those from books, or reading, or just keep reading things instead of just scrolling on our phones. And there are so many other things that we can do. And I'm not against social media, because I am a huge fan of it since it's been invented, because I was like a kind of followed it through, and before social media time and after social media time. But let's find harmony in life. Let's try to focus on things that really matter, and not just about the technology, but let's stay away a little bit from it and have those days when we focus on ourselves and our family.
Yeah, and I totally agree, because if you're doing podcasts, TV shows, you're on social media, it's the only way, I shouldn't say it's the only way. It's the main way we connect with everybody, but there's also times when you should shut it down and just, kind of be there. But yeah, be there with your family, or find that time for you. Like you, I used to always have time carved out in the morning to read, and I do exercising now all the time. My reading got a little put aside, but that's because I am working with people in Europe now. So my day is starting a little earlier, but it's important, but I always still have that time. And I agree. Yep. Definitely want to be able to have that time to carve out for yourself. So, but thank you, Noemi, for sharing all of your creativity and your art. I love that. I love how you find healing with the art. And I'm hoping others as well can also find that. Like you said, you don't have to be an artist. Just start. You heard Noemi tell you, so just start. Definitely check out her website, noemiberes.com. You'll see some of her artwork on there, and reach out, connect with her. There's lots of things she's doing. And if any of that you're doing, Noemi is definitely great at connecting people. And I want to thank you so much for being with us today.
It was my absolute pleasure, Laura. I really enjoyed that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. And everybody have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time.